Welcome, the Smash team. Thanks for tuning in. Looking at the sun at 193 angstroms here. We've got fraud, lies, hacks, weather, misrepresentation, and all kinds of other stuff to cover. So we're going to give you 1 minute. Thanks again to the Smash team. Enjoy this view at 193 angstroms of our local yellow dwarf while I give you 1 minute of lead time to tell your friends and foes to join the live chat. Again, be back in 1 minute, folks. All right, so we see very weak solar activity continuing as solar minimum stretches on. So happy summer, folks. Welcome to the summer season. We're going to look at another view here. 8 minutes of the sun at 171 angstroms. We do see some filaments. We're going to look at 304 angstroms after this. So stay tuned. There's a lot of stuff to cover. Anyway, there's the view in my favorite wavelength, 171 angstroms. Let's take a look at 304 real quick before we move on to cover a lot of other stuff. And so there's a 304 angstroms view. And we do see some filaments there. Pretty interesting dance going on there in the northwest. It's you'd call that a filament transfer there. A bit of plasma coming out of the corona here and landed in the corona over here. Great demonstration of how X-ray flares are not required to hurl plasma into space. Now, of course, that one's not really going out into space, landing back on the sun. Also, an interesting filament down here. That's some kind of a co-acting pair of regions there. And let's move on to more stuff. Might as well look at the magnetic lines while we're here. Here are the magnetic lines. Not really. Having some issues with the SDO images there. Let's look at, I think this one works. There we go. 335 angstroms view. Pretty much all closed lines there, folks. We do see some coronal holes there that are kind of Earth facing. I'll show you a big image at 193 angstroms. So that's the most current image there at about 8 o'clock universal time. Let's look at some other stuff like the real-time solar wind. Just coming off of a connection with that coronal hole. We had an ongoing connection there for about an hour. And that could reconnect at any time, so look for that throughout the day. Very low solar wind density, very low, 2.95 protons per cubic centimeter. And solar wind speed just kicked up again. Almost as if another weak coronal hole wind stream is hitting. Again, looks very weak. Let's look at magnetosphere movies, as we typically do around this time. We're going to look at just density and pressure. As we are doing the best we can to condense these videos. Anyway, there's the density. We see that low density solar wind coming in there, represented as light colors coming in from the left of your screen. Here's the pressure. And we're going to see a very low pressure with a weak solar wind speed and a very weak solar wind density. So, as you could expect, apply your common sense and your understanding of things like F equals MA to the situation. You know, density times velocity and so on. Anyway, there's the density, very weak magnetosphere. Nowhere near as weak as some situations that we'd covered on the channel, where the solar wind gets below 1 proton per cubic centimeter. And we'll let that play through once more. Before we get on with the update at a breakneck pace. Going to look at ground magnetic perturbations here, changes in the Earth's B field. As we watch the pole excursion, magnetic reversal, pole flip, or whatever you'd like to call it today, proceed. And when I say proceed, I mean load. Don't make me press refresh. I guess I have to press refresh. There we go. All right. I apologize for the delay. Again, here we see motion in the North Pole there around, more like around Alaska. It looks like some perturbations around the Siberian Pole there, perhaps, as well as the Canadian Pole and the South Pole, still creeping into the Indian Ocean, into around this sort of an area. Check out smAsho.org. It's about to get upgraded with some new graphical links and some more information, such as our mission, which is also listed on the Patreon page. Thank you, patrons. We're looking to put exclusive content up soon. Also, please visit links in the description, such as our Spaced Out campaign for our Hemp Lucid store. If you're interested in CBD products, got a sale going on right now, specifically for our Spaced Out viewers, so visit the links in the description to check out this campaign for our space weather type viewers. Now, I've completely forgotten to get out the live chat today, so just bear with me one moment while I do that. And thanks again for tuning in, folks. If you're a new viewer, please subscribe to the channel, as we make these space weather videos every day, and we've been doing it for over a year. We're going to try to avoid saying the word shadow band for Google to transcribe on this particular date. Again, if you've just tuned in, welcome to summer. And welcome Harry, College, Ann, Eden, and anybody else who's viewing and not commenting. Please do leave a comment, as interaction helps our channel to grow and get shared and show up on people's suggestions. Also, press the notification bell. And again, visit the links in the description for the Spaced Out campaign for Hemp Lucid CBD products. How about some whole plant lip balm? Sounds good to me. Also, check out theveloshop.net. That's the cycling team. If you want to sponsor the cycling team, it's about time to start looking at next year's sponsors now. So within 2 months, we'll be looking at the next year's kit. If you want to get on the jerseys, email me at smashomash@gmail.com. Also, thanks for those who contribute on PayPal or download the music or even just stream the music. It looks like Gem Cutter's been up to number 64 in the subgenre of instrumentals or whatever. How about Red Button? You can buy the song and add it to your MP3. You can add it to your MP3 collection for only 99 cents. How about them apples? Links in the description of that, as well as the SoundCloud page. And let's move on to more space stuff. Again, 10.7 centimeter radial flux back down to 67. Solar minimum conditions, folks. 0 sunspots for 33 days. You see a totally flatlined X-ray flux. Magnetometer is showing the kind of spikes that you would expect, as there are some striations in the plasma environment, which we will look at via the Gong 2 in a moment, which shows where the plasma is located via magnetic fields transmitted out of the sun. Anyway, here's the KP index, which is at 2. So quiet levels, no real risks about that. Here's the electron flux, which is quite low again. So very low amount of solar activity in all forms. Now, the solar wind is made up primarily of protons. There are also helium nuclei, which we call alpha. Some people call alpha particles. Those are also extremely reactive when they get to the Van Allen belts, as they want an electron or two really badly. So anyway, very low electron levels. And again, the solar wind consists of mainly hydrogen nuclei or protons, helium nuclei, and there's also electrons, and then a selection of every element known on Earth is also in the solar wind. As the sun is building those atoms right on its surface, practically in plain view, believe it or not in an internal fusion reactor, which doesn't exist. Charging hazards are minimal, and they're around Central America, as they usually are this time of day. Here's the F2 layer, and it's looking very discharged, although not as discharged as it was yesterday. Nighttime side showing the main charge disparity here as the current flows through the planet. As the planet acts like a transformer, folks, if you weren't aware, there is some capacitance and some voltage regulation going on there. As the sun, on which the interplanetary magnetic field rests, passes right through the planet and indeed your face. Here are the aurora forecasts, where the Birkeland currents actually arrive at the planet. And let's move on to more stuff, because there's still a lot of stuff to cover. We're going to completely ignore the space weather enthusiast dashboard, except to look at the LASCO C3, which we use to look for Earth-facing ejecta. If you see a halo, or you see a halo of plasma coming out of the center, that means the plasma is aimed at you. It's coming in your direction, right? We call it a halo ejection for that reason. So nothing going on there. Let's move on. Here's a synoptic map. Nothing but a couple of coronal holes, which we would not be surprised to see reconnecting to the Earth as the earthquake risk continues. The coronal hole issue. Let's look at the gong too. This is the top view ecliptic plane field plot, as if you're looking down onto the North Pole of the sun. So the Earth is in a south solar polar field dominated portion shown in red here. The green portion is the north solar polar field, associated polarity aspect of the current sheet. So we use a lot of ground-based magnetometers, as well as stereo A pictured here and stereo B represented here, to get this data, as this is super important. Keep in mind, magnetic fields can change suddenly and with zero warning. So this data is 1 hour and 10 minutes old. And the disparities we're seeing in the GOES magnetometer are because of this region right here. When we have these field force lines that connect directly to the corona, you're getting a stronger magnetic influence. So without doing extensive study on this and how it relates to the GOES magnetometer readings, as well as things like Earth effects, it's hard to say. But the fact that I can look at this and guess what the magnetometer will look like probably has pretty serious repercussions in terms of the magnetic environment. We're not going to show any other views from the Gong 2 data because there's really not a lot going on there. And we're going to actually skip the stereo A coronagraph stuff as well. For you new viewers out there, stereo A is located right about here on Earth's orbit, about 4 months behind the Earth. Stereo B is located out here, 4 months ahead of the Earth's orbitally speaking, about 1/3 of the way around the sun. So we can see the backside of the sun. Anyway, there's where the situation is now. Milky Way galaxy team for the win. Here's where things will be in 1 week. New moon approaching, and Earth approaching a Saturn conjunction. Should be able to see Saturn and Jupiter if you're up before dawn, as Saturn and Jupiter will dominate the night sky. And now, once again, you've got a lovely gibbous moon up there with Saturn and Jupiter. If you've got a backyard telescope, please post images online of things like Saturn's rings and then leave us a link. Also, for those of you who contribute to the channel, first of all, thanks. Second of all, send us an email if you want to be on a producer's list and let us know how you'd like your name to be titled. If you go by an online alias, or if you have a channel or a website or a business or whatever, let us know if you're contributing, as we will give you credit as credit is due. Anyway, thanks again, everybody leaving comments. Check out in-the-sky.org to create your own sky map. See what's going on above your head. I'm going to hit refresh because it's actually 4:27. So Jupiter's about to set, Saturn's a little higher, and the moon is practically at its apex. So again, if you're up before dawn, go check out the ecliptic. There should be some cool stuff going on. I'll look at cosmic rays real quick. Here's a Patity. Here's Barentsburg. Pretty high levels there at Barentsburg over the last few days. Let's look at Athens. We'll also look at Moscow and Mexico City and Oulu. Here's Moscow. Nothing too extravagant happening there. Mexico City. There's the data from that one. Moscow. Uptick since the 14th. Again, welcome to summer, folks. It's not the cosmic ray max, but it's close. So it'll be interesting to see if solar activity increases or stays so flat. Very hard to measure solar activity when there are no sunspots, so we use a 10.7 centimeter radial flux, which is a measure of the sun's outermost corona. Don't get it confused with total solar activity, because there's a lot even besides total solar irradiance. You got to look at electron fluence, you got to look at total solar irradiance, magnetic field strength, and those are the ways you really predict what the cycles are going to do. We're not going to get into the phasing of the solar polar fields right now, but we will cover that at a later time. Here's DOMC Antarctica, and here's DOMB Antarctica's neutron monitors. Nothing too exciting happening in those places. Please follow us on social media if you find it easier to share our content that way. We only average about 100 views a day, believe it or not. And we've got less than 1,400 subscribers on YouTube. So we do have a Twitter. And although I don't tweet, smAsho staff does share the videos for ease of sharing. Not that it's easy to share the videos for some reason. We won't get into that either. Also, follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/smAshomash. The social media that will maybe even load a page. Having bought MySpace and ruined that platform, Facebook is now ruining space. Please join the Space is Fake campaign. Just kidding, folks. Just kidding. Space isn't really fake. Anyway, follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/smAshomash. We might interact there. It's theoretically possible. Also on Instagram, if you want to see some less spaced out content, here's some beer drinking content. Oh, man. Fat Tire Amber Ale. Not bad, but I'm a real mountain bike racer, so I'm authorized to. It's okay. I'll give it a thumbs up. Anyway, Instagram.com/smAsho if you want to see more personal stuff. Also on Gab, I'm going to actually use Gab eventually when I get around to it, when I'm not quite as busy as I am now, which will be later in the year. Also on Minds.com, Minds.com/smAshomash. The social media platform, that really is a platform. It's open source. It won't censor you. And it's got this beautiful black skin. Check out how cool that is. It just looks awesome. Perfect for our spaced out content and plasma experiments on our cover image and so on. Again, please press like and subscribe on YouTube and press the notification bell, as you may even see, oh, we've only lost 1 subscriber since yesterday. Well, glory days, glory days. youtube.com/smAsho. Check out earthquakes. Here's a rundown of the last day. Large quakes coming in constantly here at New Zealand. Give a shout out if your salt and pepper shakers fell off a shelf on the wall. Also a 5.0 in the same area, which, by the way, this area is out in the ocean on right near a rift on a small ridge. These are all coming out of the exact same spot. Not the exact same spot, but they're all right near this rift. So leave a comment if you think it's caused by magmatic action. And let's hope there's no giant supervolcano under the ocean by New Zealand, as that could make for a bad day. Here's a 4.7 at Papua New Guinea. 4.6 in Indonesia. That one's fairly deep, 76 kilometers. Shout out Alaska. There's a 3.3, and that is around Anchorage. Let us know if you felt that one. Let us know if your mother-in-law's photograph fell off and if you rejoiced. Largest quake in the Caribbean for a while. We see a 4.0 at Puerto Rico. Shout out Caribbean viewers. You may even be able to see these videos in that portion of the world. Here's a less likely place, a 4.2 in India. That one's at 139 kilometers depth, so heads up India for a larger quake at the surface. If one of the many billions of people are watching the video there, please leave a comment. Here's a 4.1 at the Northern Mariana Islands. They're at 299 kilometers. Heads up for a larger quake there at the surface. Here's a 4.6 very far north in the Greenland Sea, near Svalbard. Very far east of Greenland. All right, and what else do we see? I said 3.2 in Oregon. As we saw, a 4+ magnitude. Was that yesterday or 2 days ago? I can't remember. And last but not least, oh, what do we have here? Tonga 5.0, Solomon Islands a 4.8. Not at depth. Look at pressure maps before we look at the jet stream, as the jet stream is totally jacked up again. There are the pressure maps. You see a series of anticyclones there south of Africa. A couple of anticyclones there west of Oregon. And I'm not going to let this play. I'm just going to move on. Look at tropical tidbits here. Wanted to show you the 250 millibar wind speed. And yeah, check out the jet stream, folks. The southern hemisphere, it looks like a jet stream. In the northern hemisphere, it looks like convection running the show. And that's not normal. If you think carbon dioxide is causing this, please leave a comment and explain how you came up with this. If you think carbon dioxide is capable of causing that, please leave a comment. And if you've never cracked a physics book, I don't know, please leave a comment anyway. I don't know why I'm saying that. But if you've never cracked a physics book, just download one online. I mean, it's not like information is free nowadays, folks. Information is free. Don't try to impress me with your PhD in atmospheric physics or whatever you claim to know. Anyway, so it's snowing in places like Colorado, Wyoming, and Utah, and a little bit in Montana. Some wintry mix falling there. And some strong storms in places like Kansas and Illinois. Shout out if you're viewing from Illinois. You are illin if you're in the south of Illinois and about to get inundated with more rain if you're in the north of Illinois. Jeez. That's a nasty series of storms. And those towns that are in the crosshairs, such as Terre Haute, Indiana, St. Louis is going to get hammered again as if they need more rain. And let's move on. You're welcome, Texas. We're not talking about how screwed up the weather is there. If you have images of parts of your house being blown away or destroyed by hail, please leave a comment and a photo link. We'll feature it on the channel. Here's the water vapor map to give you some idea of where this beast of a storm is going to show up. If you are directly in the crosshairs of this one, it's going to train on you. It's going to move almost due east. Where you may get hit with storm after storm for several hours. Sorry to say it, but it's true. Here's a lightning map. And who's the winner? Indiana, you are in the crosshairs. Check out lightningmaps.org if you've never done so. And if you're in Robinson, there's thunder rolling in. Shout out Robinson. Check out this oblong town. It's literally called Oblong. Who would have thunk it? Volcano rundown. How about Raikoke in the Kuriil Islands? Check it out, a 43,000 foot plume. That's a brand new one on the list. What's up with that? New location. Satellite images, folks. Check it out. Sulfur dioxide rich plume, no less. Suddenly getting added to the list, Raikoke. 43,000 foot ash plume. Don't try to pole vault that. It won't work out. Unexpected large eruptions like this are extremely dangerous for aviation when the volcanic ash reaches flight levels of commercial airplanes where it could damage jet engines. With no warning, Raikoke erupted yesterday evening. In celebration of summer, Raikoke could not hold on any longer and went kaboom! Check it out. Jeez. We're not going to look for footage of it. Dacona's still producing a 7,000 foot plume, as it has for ages. Popocatépetl now back on the list, emitting, but not exploding, like Sangay, which is exploding and producing a 19,000 foot ash plume. And Sabancaya with a 27,000 foot ash plume. Now this 43,000 footer here at Raikoke, that's pretty close to the stratosphere. Let's see if it gives me the coordinates of this thing. So super dangerous volcano there. They're the current airplanes when it went off. There was probably a little bit of rerouting. Jeez. Anyway, that's just north of Japan there. So it cause a mess as there's a lot of traffic there. As we've moved on to the That Is an Ass, and that featured on the right is a hole in the ground. No vulgarity on this station. Let's talk about some terms that are used in the insurance industry. Now, I used to be a licensed insurance agent in 49 states and the District of Columbia, but I got the hell out of that business because it is so crooked that I refuse to
misrepresent
any products or services associated with our companies. And I refused to commit any
fraud,
as many insurance agents are known to do. Now, speaking of fraud and misrepresentation, talk about the definitions. Misrepresentation is when you just give false or misleading facts, sometimes not even on purpose. In other words, if you fill out something and put a mistake on there, That's a misrepresentation, such as an insurance application, let's just say, right? Or let's say you just are incorrect about carbon dioxide's effects on the atmosphere or lack thereof. That's very different from fraud. Fraud is when you do it on purpose. So there's a difference between a lie and a mistake, and that's a difference between fraud and misrepresentation. So ask yourself, are the news agencies committing
fraud
when they try to tell you that the planet is warming and that carbon dioxide has anything to do with it? Or is that just a
misrepresent?
Are they just attempting to
misrepresent
some facts that they don't understand? I think it's a combination of both. And I would prefer to reduce fraud first and then reduce misrepresentation. Pretty hard to tackle both, though, when there's about 6,000 articles containing nothing but nonsense a day, fake news and lies. Let's talk about some deceit and trickery. The tech expert says Google Chrome has become spy software. I don't know how long I've been saying that on this channel, but I didn't become a really, really vocal critic of Google until 2016. And it's because of the 2016 election tampering from Google. As Google is the largest software manufacturer in the world, the largest owner of internet servers in the world, the largest advertising agency in the world. So using Chrome, if you use Google Chrome, you've got problems. I mean, anyway, there's links in the article. If you think Google is an objective search engine, think again. Now, speaking of misrepresentation and fraud, here's a fraud, James Hansen. When I first started studying climate science, it was formally in 8th grade earth science. That was 1987 to 1988. At the time, James Hansen was telling us that by 1995, when we graduated high school, the Arctic would be ice-free. Now, let's just say that those numbers have been adjusted, because by the time 1995 rolled around and there was still ice in the Arctic and we were still seeing snow and Florida wasn't mostly underwater, they readjusted eventually to 2016. And now they're adjusting to 2050. And now they're adjusting to 2100. And now they're adjusting to the year 3000. Now they're adjusting to the year 3 billion. So links to this horrible photo right here, if you'd like to put that on your desktop to piss you off every time you sit down at the computer, just try that. One of the chief hack frauds in the world of atmospheric science, James Hansen, put his face in your desktop to light a fire under your ass and remind you of how much fraud and misrepresentation is in the US media. By the way, here's the website. Links in the description also to this, if you'd like to enter a dialogue with Mr. Hansen, as he is a Climate Science Awareness Solutions Program, Earth Institute, Columbia University. There's all the information. Again, links in the description. Ask him how hot his planet is. We've got some good news here. As the police try to track down Oregon lawmakers who've left the Senate and refused to vote, these patriots right here are refusing to vote on a carbon cap and trade system in Oregon. Good luck finding them, Ossifer. Good luck finding them, Ossifer. You're not going to find them. They've left the building. They're not going to vote on carbon taxes because it's stupid and it has nothing to do with the environment. Carbon is plant food, not pollution. And while there is pollution, carbon dioxide isn't the pollution. So let's look at how melted the Arctic is, as there are a lot of idiotic stories, which we're going to expose some more of before the end of this video. Here's a sea ice thickness and volume right now. And I would zoom way in here, as they've expanded this scale last year to include 5 meters. So you see this area right here north of Greenland, which is very, very stable. I will run the animation. See that right there? You know what that is? That's 5 meters of ice. That's not 5 feet. That's 5 meters. There you go. So there's the North Shore of Greenland for you. Oh, boy, that globe looks hot. Let's run this back. That's May 2nd is the beginning, and the end is yesterday. Wow, look at how melted Greenland is. Oh my gosh, sound the alarm bells. Let's zoom out and look at the rest of the Arctic. Again, this goes back to, sorry, May 4th. Oh, May 3rd. Oh, wait, let's zoom out. There we go. May 2nd. All right, I was right in the first place. So note here, here's the sea ice volume. You'll see the thing animate when I move this forward. Here's sea ice thickness. Keep in mind, this is about 4 meters thick right in this area here. 4 meters thick over here. There's May 2nd. There's June 1st. And there's now. I'm really worried about the Arctic melting. How about you? Please leave a comment. Also, note when I put this all the way forward. Let's look at this graph here. See that graph there? Now, you would think by last year people would know better, but see this turquoise blue line here, 2018? Doesn't that look like excessively low amounts of melt last year? And yet people are still freaking out about the Arctic melting? If you think polar bears invade towns because it's too warm in the Arctic, you don't understand polar bear life cycles. Polar bears invade towns because it's too cold. They can't get through the ice, and they can't hunt seals. Check out the historic snow that fell in the Northern Hemisphere this year, as it's not even anywhere close. It's outside of a standard deviation by like 2 standard deviations. And this is what's causing record melt, as there's still snow all over the place, and Greenland has 9 feet from coast to coast. So links to this Global Cryosphere Watch page as well in the description. Please leave a comment if you think it's hot in the Northern Hemisphere, and if you're in the Southern Hemisphere, please feel free to share whatever links are the Southern Hemispheric equivalent to these, as we've heard horror stories from the Southern Hemisphere. You've got a very concentrated meridional jet stream flow down there. Let us know if you're getting early snow and opening ski places early in places like Australia and New Zealand, as if I don't already know about this. Also, check out some of the departures at the bottom of the graph. I'm not sure why it would be so snowy if it's hot. Please leave a comment if you think snow equals hot. EU is accomplishing some stuff here too, thanks to places like Poland, and failing to set a target of 0 net greenhouse emissions by 2050. So applause to Poland also for not sealing your own fate and paying more money to keep yourself alive in the wintertime, which has been excessively cold and snowy. Let's look at some more nonsense, as I love this close-up of a bunch of ice, which is, by the way, not particularly melting. Anyway, links to this article as well on Universe Today. NASA model shows Greenland's ice sheet will disappear over the next 1,000 years. So anyway, those climate alarmist forecasts have been updated to 1,000 years now, folks. Don't worry about your kids or your grandkids being drowned in a coastal city, as it'll be more like your great grandkids. Links to that article as well. Shout out Universe Today. Way to come through with the NASA model article. Please leave a comment, James Hansen, if you're watching. Speaking of James Hansen, let's talk about some other interesting fellows. Hold on. Let's talk about asses and holes in ground. Just bear with me. Again, there's James Hansen page. Let's talk about some other geniuses, such as Michael Mann. Links to this article from leftexposed.com. Michael Mann, the author of the hockey stick graph. Have yourself a read about this ingenious guy here. One of the, like James Hansen, one of the world's leading climate alarmists. I'd say him, along with this gentleman here, would be the 3 top leading climate alarmists who know nothing about atmospheric physics or who are perfectly content lying to you about it. So check out algore.com/about. The climate crisis offers us a chance to experience what very few generations in history have had the privilege of knowing. A generational mission. And the generational mission is to discount people who either know nothing about atmospheric physics or are liars. Now, keep in mind, folks, you can't measure the atmosphere and figure out the temperature of the Earth, as the Earth's heat latency lies in the oceans. The atmosphere is less than 1% of the Earth's heat budget, and the oceans are the other 99+%. So not only can you not measure CO2 to figure out the Earth's temperature, you can't even measure the air. You got to measure the water 3 meters deep in the middle of the Indian Ocean. And if you think we're doing that, think again. We're using satellites to measure sea surface temperature, which accomplishes a heap and helping of nothing. Anyway, good job, EU leaders, for not dooming yourselves to very high fuel prices as the planet gets colder for 2 more years following the solar minimum, as the heat latency of the oceans takes 2 years to catch up to solar activity. So figure that into your next model there, NASA, as there's not going to be any shortage of this stuff, ice. Also, don't get sea ice. Don't get sea ice confused with ice sheets. Also, there's an article for further reading here that we've included in the descriptions as well, as now some folks, such as Harvard, are claiming that black holes may be progenitors of life as opposed to areas that prevent it, because, of course, the radiation from a black hole, if refracted appropriately in an atmosphere, could do the same thing a star does, right? Because they're all made of condensed matter. I'm not going to get farther in depth into that, but I do want to cite one more video here on YouTube. So I'm going to go to youtube.com/smAsho, and so should you. And I'm going to scroll down here. I'm going to click on further viewing. All right, something's going wrong here. Go look for Tony Heller, which is in our further viewing channels. Now Tony's only got 28,000 subs. And there's a great video here about climate alarmism, as he loves to debunk it. So again, check out Tony Heller. It's in our further viewing channels. And I'm just going to play a little clip here, as here's a photograph of some dogs walking across some sea ice, and a journalist dying to report on melting ice sheets. In other words, the reporter doesn't know the difference between sea ice and ice sheets. Take it away, Tony.
Meltwater on top. And Jason Samnow from the Capitol Weather Gang at the Washington Post immediately saw the propaganda opportunities which this photo presented. And then lots of other journalists wanted to jump into the propaganda fest. Here's one. Hi, Stefan. I'm a journalist from a Polish news website. Can we use your picture in an article about the current ice sheet melting in Greenland?
See right there, this Polish journalist does not understand that that's not an ice sheet, that it's sea ice. And here's the guy that works for the Danish Meteorological Institute, the entity that owns the dogs and the sleds and the instruments, stating that they're not on an ice sheet.
Stefan quickly responded and corrected the journalist. Note that we are not on the ice sheet here. The dogs are running on sea ice flooded by surface meltwater. The point being that this has nothing to do with glaciers. It was just a warm day and the surface of the sea ice was melting.
Anyway, watch the video. It's super good. It's about 20 minutes long. And Tony is just out there debunking the crap out of this climate nonsense. So seriously, check it out. It's good times. And let's go to some more views of the sun here. I'm going to have to refresh this to get the latest data as I take the time to click on stuff for you, the viewer. So here's 8 hours and 45 minutes. We're going to go to 94 angstroms. We're going to open up the chat, and then we're going to get out of here as if we just shot Osama bin Laden in the face. Nope, we did not shoot Osama bin Laden in the face. I didn't shoot Osama bin Laden in the face. Anyway, thanks again for leaving comments, everybody. We're getting way too much rain here in eastern Pennsylvania. Let us know if it's cold and wet where you're located. And if it is cold and wet, I hope it warms and dries, folks, because it's been a cold, wet spring and a cold, wet summer. And it's barely even started. I don't know anything about extra dust during meteor showers, but there's going to be extra dust during meteor showers. I got a ride in yesterday, Harry. It was 1.6 miles instead of 60 due to cold and rain and a clean bike. Planning a 60-miler, did a 1.6 miler, and I don't care. I didn't need it. I just came off being overtrained anyway, so screw it. Anyway, I highly recommend just reading a regular high school physics book if you've never taken physics. Just download a high school physics book and read the first 6-7 chapters. If you get all the way through it, that's more than you get through in a class. So if you get through 6, 7, 8 chapters of that physics book, you might know more than Neil deGrasse Tyson does about astronomy. But I doubt it. If you like this song, it's called Conclusivity, and it's available at soundclick.com/GoldenCatProductions. If you download the full version, I suggest cranking it to full volume because it's very well equalized. And if you have a good system, it will sound hot. Just saying. Yeah, DuckDuckGo, the objective search engine that will not track you. There are real photos of footage of Earth. It's from that Japanese satellite, which is orbiting at a very large distance. Wakatake or something. I forget what it's called, but it's not called walkie-talkie. But maybe we'll feature that tomorrow. All right, I'll give you one more minute to leave whatever comments you like, folks, and then we are out of here. All right, well, it is about that time, folks. Thanks again for tuning in, everybody. Please support the channel via the links in the description if you see fit and are able. If you like the content, share on your social media. We laugh at the prospect of 1,400 subscribers, just as we laughed at the prospect of 101,000 subscribers. If you think YouTube pays us for these videos because you're watching ads, think again. YouTube pays us nothing. I can't divulge any other aspects of the terms of service, but I can tell you YouTube pays us nothing. All right. Thanks again for tuning in, folks. We are out of here. And remember, when you're staring at the sun, don't drink it. If you drink, stare at the sun anyway. Just don't drive. And since it'll never be now again, happy summer. May the solar wind be at your back and the atherosclerosis absent from your veins.